Mr. Organ.
Hello, and thank you for joining us here at Worldview Talk Show. I am Chantel Zoe, your host, and with me today I have Norberto Cruz, and I also have Pastor John Carlos. So we would like to talk today about the dangers of witchcraft, something that has infiltrated our culture to such a state of norm that we're too numb by it, and it's something that we really need to be aware of. Pastor John Carlos, would you like to tell us a little bit of what witchcraft is to you as far as in regards to the Bible?
Well, witchcraft today has become very acceptable by people. It's not the woman with a broom and a pointed hat. The internet has changed it. In fact, you can see here right in front of us, there are just some of the symbols that people are wearing on T-shirts and wearing on their clothing that are actually witchcraft, not realizing that witchcraft has power.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I would say about witchcraft is, if you don't believe in God, witchcraft proves it. Because witchcraft is run by the devil, and it is powerful to a point. So if there's a devil, there has to be a God.
That is correct.
Amen.
When there's light, there's dark. If there's light, there's darkness. There's that contrast. A lot of people, they think that there's such a thing as, I only focus on good witchcraft. But it is the complete opposite of
White magic.
Right. God is not magic. God is not something that he just creates a way for us to just say, poof, or some spells. He's given us the ability to speak his word. And in his word, he says in Deuteronomy 8:9-13, this is a New International Version, when you enter the land the Lord your God is giving to you, do not learn to imitate the detestable ways of the nations there. Let no one be found among you who sacrifices his son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft, or casts spells, or who is a medium or spiritist, or who consults with the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord. And because of these detestable practices, the Lord your God will drive out those nations before you. You must be blameless before the Lord your God. So, Norberto, what are some examples that you can share with the people about some of these practices here and why they're so detestable?
The reason that it's detestable is because, number one, they oppose God.
Right.
First commandment says, thou shalt have no other God.
That's right.
Right. So anyone, anything that you put before God, then is detestable in God's eyes. And we're walking in darkness. Mm-hmm. And Santeria, what happens is they offer you sort of a light.
Right.
But it's really darkness.
Right.
Santeria, they use it for finances, health, keeping the enemy away, or even coming up against someone, doing something to someone.
So that would be like a revenge, right?
Yes, revenge. Also, there's examples of many examples of how people, little kids grow up in situations like this. Like, for example, the story of Nicky Cruz. He grew up in Puerto Rico. His family was into Santeria. He came to New York City. They shipped him out to New York City because, according to them, he was rebelling against them. Then what happens? He came here, and he became a leader of the Mau Mau gangs. And he was notorious. He did many ugly things.
Right.
But again, we know that God can change anyone, and God did change him. But in the meantime, it destroyed many lives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything that the environment that he grew up in, what happens, he brought that with him.
Right.
You know, a lot of hate, rage, all those things.
Yeah.
And it just destroys families. You know, I have a situation, I remember my mother taking me into a apartment of the building we lived in. There was 4 Santeras that lived in the building. And we walked in there, there was dead chickens, there was cups with blood in them, water and whatever else. And I was very uncomfortable. And I was wondering, why is my mother there? At that time, she wasn't a Christian, thanks God.
Right.
The Lord reached her heart. And you know what? A lot of bad things happened to her family.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of strife in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one day we went there to that apartment, and when I came back, I got a epileptic attack out of the blue sky.
Wow.
And then one of the Santero, told, he came and he prayed over me and told my mother that they sent something her way, but it hit me,
right.
the weaker vessel.
Right.
You know, so all those things are going to happen. It's going to destroy your family. It's going to attack. It's going to cause division. It does so many things.
Right, because it's, you know, when you're saying that you're associating yourself with witchcraft, which is detestable to the Lord because it is not of Him. It is actually of Satan. It is actually of darkness. It is not of any light at all. Therefore, you're saying, you know, any protection that God could possibly give me, I give it, you know, permission to flee. You know, because some people might have the perception of, oh, what, just because I believe in witchcraft now, God is punishing me. No, God is not a punisher. But definitely, He does not want us to honor things that are not honorable, that He does not have lined up with us because He knows what that can cause.
Yes,
and
yes.
You know, Pastor John Carlos, we were talking a little bit earlier about, you know, what going into this realm could go, you know, how teenagers, you know, the millennials today, it's all over patterns, it's all over, you know, CDs, it's even on the dollar bill, it's everywhere, and it's done in a way where, you know, Satan is he has cleverly been able to come in and make things so obvious that to people, because it's obviously out there, to them it's like there's no way this could really mean anything. How do you think us as Christians can make an impact in really bringing awareness?
Well, I think the first thing we need to say is the devil has no power over Christians,
right,
unless they allow it.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Anyone who has not accepted Christ as their Lord and Savior is susceptible to the curses, to the different things that Santaria and all of these different witch-type things, the Wicca, can put upon them. The devil has limited power, but he has it over people who are not believers.
Right.
The interesting thing is millennials, in a world growing up where everything seems to be okay, try this, try that, try the other thing, they are in that same category.
Mm-hmm.
They need to realize that it's a trap. Once you get into that trap, you become part of Satan's plan. Mm-hmm. He wants to kill you, and he wants to destroy you. He's never going to give you anything that's going to be worth anything. He'll tempt you with something, and he'll just draw you in and destroy you.
Right.
The message we want to send today is that the only way you can stand against these things, these symbols, which represent all kinds of hexes and all kinds of ways to get back at people or protect people or whatever, is to come to Christ.
Right.
He is the answer. Again, we hope that when you're watching this program, you'll realize that without God, without Christ,
Yes.
you are susceptible any time to the devil to do anything he wants to you.
Right.
And that's what we're here to warn you about. You need to come to Christ. He is the only answer.
Yes. Now, what do you know specifically about Santaria and its either impact in the church or the way that not everyone thinks it's such a bad thing?
Well, I think that the interesting thing about Santeria is it is the Catholic faith mixed with witchcraft, which is interesting.
Right.
And it's a scam by the devil to make you think that you're worshiping Christ, but you're really worshiping the devil.
Right.
And the people that fall into this are people who have not really opened the Bible.
Yes.
That's the key. The
Uninformed.
Bible gives you the
Yeah.
answer to all of these kind of things. And when a person's in Santeria, they are actually in bondage. They either curse someone or someone's cursing them, and people can use this for all kinds of means among themselves
Right.
who don't know Christ. Christ wants to set people free from all of this. Whether you call it Santeria or you call it Wicca or you give it any other kind of name. Even different countries have different names for this, but
Right.
the source is the same. It's Satan. He's the source of it.
Now, I've seen, some videos on YouTube where I was researching about Santaria and just this witchcraft realm, because there's so many different avenues. But one of them, when it comes to Santaria, that I had noticed was this woman apparently was cursed or something, and there was this healing session that had gone on, and so it's something that they draw people in, in such a way that it seems like, oh, they received healing, whether it was physically, whether it was through a family curse, but not really understanding, what door that they really just opened. And I know some of that, there's some jewelry attached to Santaria and to other forms of witchcraft that may seem so normal. To me, I'm a jewelry designer and I love wearing jewelry. And so certain ones, when I was researching them, it's like, how do you know? Some of these colors they're so colorful, they're so vibrant. What do you know, either of you know about the jewelry and the impact that it has and, the source behind it?
I can give you some information on that. Many times people buy or receive jewelry, and it's cursed. It has a curse on it. And the devil is very, very good at trying to fool people.
Deceive. Yep.
Yeah.
He's a deceiver. But the thing is that all these things in your house can cause all kinds of problems and friction in the family. It also brings demonic forces in. And I've known people that can't sleep. They're possessed.
Right.
They do things, and we see that every day in the paper. Why did they do that? Why did this guy do this? And then we hear this ranting and all these other things that this person has been going around doing, and then going and killing and doing all kinds of terrible things.
Right.
The devil is a destroyer, and he will use people to destroy people. So again, his healing, for example, this is the way I explain his healing. He puts the disease on a person,
Right.
and then he takes it off. And
Right.
people think, wow, look what happened, right? But again, without Christ, you're vulnerable to all these different things.
Right.
The internet has been one of the greatest things that the devil has used to get people in trouble. You don't have to
Yes.
run down someplace and get in trouble. You can be in your own house.
That's right.
You can be in your own house as well as with the Santeria and any kind of witchcraft. It comes by all different names, different places. But it's the same source. It's all coming from Satan.
Yeah. I was actually watching over the weekend, and I've watched this before. We've heard of it. The show Hoarders. There's one in particular. It's called Hoarding, Buried Alive, and the number one common theme that I kept finding these people say is, I don't know why I am this way. It started off with, a place where there was either a death or a loss, and they started picking up this, what seemed to be a hobby. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because I love thrifting and antiquing and whatnot, but as I grew in my walk, I realized I had to be careful of things that I picked up and I brought into my house, because we don't know where it came from. We literally do not know where it came from. And so some of these people would be living literally in torment and saying, I don't know why when something comes in my house, why I can't throw it away. And I'm talking about garbage. But there's also things that they would buy just for the sake of buying it. Then there was other things. This one woman, once someone gave her a horse, and before you know it, she was obsessed with buying these little plastic horses, where she would spend her 401k on. Like little things where, when we are in a state of of not being in control, when we are in a state of confusion, and it starts from the beginning when we were cursed, when there was the curse that had happened, when there was the fall, and it says that God is the God of the universe. God is the God of everything. But after the fall, that Satan became the God of this air, of this age. And it's so evident because so many people, they say, well, what's the point of believing in God if then Satan is the God of this age? He's not the God of this earth. He's the God of this age. I was actually reading the Hebrew translation of that, and it's of this age and of this air, because God is the God of the earth, because the
Creator.
trees, the trees and the air and all the creation worships him and longs to worship him. But there's a difference of the things in this air, in this age, and this even spiritual realm that we're living in. And it's just so interesting because so many of us don't realize how much in danger we are in, but also how much freedom we have, like easily accessible, but we have to be aware. You were also mentioning someone else. What was it?
John Ramirez.
Yes.
He was an individual, again, young, about 9 years old. His aunt was into Santeria, and he went looking for his aunt and his mother, and he found them in the basement of the house, and they set up for their ceremony. And when he walked in, the head warlock, he automatically just looked at John, and he said that he was going to be somebody great in Santeria. And
He was a psychic, right? I believe.
No, he was the head.
Okay.
He was the head warlock, and so basically they anointed him in the future. They had 17 individuals, and they anointed him. They cut him and made the on his flesh, and then made the symbol of Satan.
Wow.
And then from there, he just graduated little by little, and the things that he says in his book is amazing.
Yeah.
How he was able to transport
Yeah.
into hospitals, into individuals. He was getting paid to kill individuals.
Right.
This is all in the book. It's not something that I'm just
Yeah.
throwing out there. And that's what the enemy does. The enemy's a deceiver, like you mentioned. Remember, the battles against principalities of the air. And if we don't have the full armor of God on it, the pastor's saying, if we're not saved, we don't have the armor.
Yes.
Then what happens? The enemy finds an opening, and where he comes in wherever your greatest desire is, your greatest need, your greatest want, and he offers you the world.
Right.
And again, but he's not the ruler of the world. But he
No.
offers you the world. So we're blinded, and he comes after the mind.
He did it to Jesus.
That's right. That's right. He offered, right after he fasted 40 days, 40 nights, he offered him the kingdom, turned that rock to bread,
But
bow
Jesus
down
but Jesus
and
knew.
worship me. But Jesus said it is written. Right? Man should not what? Live by bread alone,
That's
but
right.
by the word of God that proceed out of God's mouth.
Yes.
Right? So the bottom line is he's a deceiver, and he comes at you in any way possible. I remember when I was using drugs, right? And I remember there came a point in time that I didn't have money after going through my mission for the day. And you know what came to my mind? The enemy told me, ask me for it. I was too afraid to do that.
Wow.
To ask me, and I'll supply that for you.
Wow.
It's like it was loud and clear.
Wow.
And I was this close from doing it.
Right.
But I had a praying mother. Like the pastor said, and like we all know, if Christ is in the mix of your turmoil, if someone's praying for you,
Absolutely.
so we got to pray for our children.
Absolutely.
We got to pray for the millennials.
Yeah.
We got to pray because the enemy, he's a schemer, he's a deceiver, and God said he's a liar from the beginning. And he is coming to take us out. And he's coming from these young individuals,
Yeah, that's what he really goes
souls,
after. Absolutely.
because they're the future. They're the future pastors, future leaders, so on, so on, so on. And I could go on, but go ahead.
Can I give you an example, Zoe, what we talked about the internet? Recently, within the last couple of weeks, they're finding out that there's a particular image that's coming on the screen as young children are finding it.
TV?
And it starts out with some little games, try this, try that. It's a picture of, it's almost like a cartoon character.
Okay.
And what has happened is that the kids will go and do the things. These are 4, 5, 6-year-old kids.
Okay.
And in the end, he tells them, kill yourself.
Oh, that's the Momo thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a perfect example. He wants to wipe out the young people.
Yeah.
Because
That's where it all starts. Any
Yeah.
addiction, anything that you go through, if anyone has any source of depression, a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it starts somewhere in your childhood, because that's where, and even society says it, scientists say it, that we're like a sponge. We're like a sponge when we are kids. And even, when you're at the grocery store, at the very end, what's right there? A bunch of candy.
Candy and magazines.
Magazines and a bunch of candy.
A lot of gossip in magazines.
Right, so it's like things that they know that are going to be susceptible for children to then, go to their parents or whomever's paying and saying, I want, and this is where, we have to really be careful and understand that our children are being preyed on. The internet is so not just highly accessible anymore, but, my son has a cell phone now. It's not a great one, but, he's 12, walks to school, he's 12 years old, and, he's definitely earned my trust with that, but I still have to check on him.
Yes.
But there's plenty that are even younger that have had an iPhone. There are plenty that are even younger that they demand it. They don't even know how to live and breathe without it.
$1,000 phone for a kid.
Yeah.
Like, I had seen kids yesterday, and it was a little late at night, on their bikes. Even though it was late, it made me happy that they were on their bikes. They were outside.
You don't see that no more. You don't see kids doing anything outside no more.
But we have to be so careful on what we really allow them to watch, because if you think that they're okay with just watching anything, like you think you can fully trust them, absolutely not.
No.
And it's not because they have any even reason to. It's just those things are, like you said, it's just thrown in front of them. It could be as an ad for all we know. We have to be really careful.
Look also at people on drugs. They'll tell you they see all kinds of terrible things.
Right.
In fact, years ago on alcohol bottles, it said the spirits of alcohol. So when you get into these type of things that numb your brain, so to speak,
inebriate
it
your
opens
mind.
the door to all this other stuff. People have committed murders and all kinds of heinous crimes and said,
Drugs.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then you could see how demonic possession or using anything, whether it's a symbol or alcohol or drugs or anything, even the internet, he'll make them do what they never thought they would be able to do, and they'll do it.
Well, I'm sorry if I cut you off.
Go ahead.
There was a killing, I forgot exactly where, when they went to the individual's house. Was it Connecticut? In Connecticut, when they had that killing a few years ago in the school.
Maybe.
At the school.
Continue, we'll see.
They went to the house and they found a Ouija board.
Oh.
And they found out that he was heavy into the Ouija board.
Yeah.
So it'll direct your steps.
Yeah.
How, like God wants to ordain our steps.
Yeah.
The enemy wants to ordain your steps.
Right to hell.
Right to hell.
Yeah. Right.
So he captures their minds because they're susceptible.
Right, exactly.
But older people are falling for it too.
Yes,
True.
yes.
That's true.
Once you get yourself intoxicated by anything, you're going to do things that you never thought you would do.
So, as a matter of fact, John Ramirez, in the book, he mentions about how the Santeros use certain type of drugs to numb people's minds to the point where they can take control of them.
Yeah.
Look at suicide. Terrible.
Yeah.
How
It's
people
on the rise, yes.
you never believe that even would do it. I watched a woman when I was a cop at 34th Street. She was walking in the subway tracks during the rush hour. Well-dressed woman. And we're all calling to her, come back, come back, come back. You could see the lights of a train coming. She looked right at me.
Wow.
I could see her right now. And she turned toward the train. She kept walking. She laid herself down, put her head down on the rail, and the train came in and took her head off.
God.
Now tell me,
That's no
How
sane,
could
no
that happen?
sane person would do something
No.
like that.
No.
but someone possessed
Yes.
by whatever means, by the
Yes.
devil. What does the devil want? He wants you to die and go to hell with him.
He wants your soul.
Whether you're young
He
or
wants your
old.
soul.
Yeah.
He wants your soul.
And people today are falling for it. Get high, do this, do that.
Yeah.
Drive a car. Now we have people that want to allow marijuana. People are going to be driving cars like that. Where do you think that came
Smoking weed.
It didn't come
next
from
to a
politicians.
cop car.
Right.
What
Well,
I'm
that
saying-
word possess is really serious, because even the things that we buy or that we consume, we think that they're our possessions, but it's a way for them to possess us.
Mm-hmm.
And some of you may think, okay, there are these symbols. What is that? Well, how does that affect me? How does that impact me? Just the American flag alone, that's something that was created where we know and we believe that there's a reason for each and every star. There's a reason for each and every stripe, and we hold honor and respect to that. It's the same thing in every detail when it comes to any of these symbols, especially when you see it so highly infiltrated, and just before you know it, there's one symbol, it's trickling in. Before you know it, it's like over and over and over and over again, whether it's on celebrities, whether it's on lunchboxes, whether it's on any source of paraphernalia that we can buy or that we can wear. Just, we want you to be mindful of that. We're not talking about this in such a way that we want to be, so, how do you put it, strict that you can't live your life and have fun and enjoy art. That's the last thing that we want to do, but we want you to really have an awareness and see, why do you wear these things? Why do you love these signs? Why? And if you don't have a why to that, that's where you need to dig in. And if you want to say, Lord, I don't know you, but I need you to help me see clearer in this, do some research. You're gonna, as you do that research, it's right there before your eyes. And just keep your eyes open in that area so that you can also make an impact and even have a discussion like this, because it's something that is never going to go away, but the more that we're aware, the more that it can be weakened and we can become stronger and allow the Lord to come in and really just make that change and not allow the enemy to have he doesn't have any power. It's a false illusion.
We give him power.
But we give him power, and when we do that,
he'll destroy you.
Yeah.
And your family.
Well,
Yeah.
he'll
Everything
give you
else.
everything you want, but in the end, he has control. He's enslaved you, and he has your soul in the palm of his hand. And that's the
And that is
bottom
not
line.
where you want to be.
And then what happens? It becomes generational.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
generational curse.
Oh,
Right.
my parents used this jewelry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mommy, can I borrow your jewelry? Daddy, can I borrow your chain, your upside down chain, whatever it is?
Yeah.
And some parents, unfortunately, don't see it. Don't see it. Like you said,
No.
you have to stay on top of it. You
Yeah.
have to stay on top
Because
of it.
if they're not aware as well, if they have no idea, then to them it's just a symbol. To them it's just something that they want that's popular. But we definitely have to create that awareness as well. So, any parents out there, if you have any questions, we're definitely going to be putting some links, not just of scripture for sure, but also just articles of information for you to read up on, because this is definitely a topic that can never be exhausted. And so we definitely want to make sure that we're up in the know on this so that we can be empowered as a body and to be able to give God the glory and to be able to show the enemy that he has no power, that these tricks, these symbols, it's just for a moment. But the Lord is coming back, absolutely, and he is a light that's going to continue to shine in us. So we thank you so much for joining us for Worldview Talk Show, and that you will come back again. Please follow us on YouTube and like us and subscribe. We have many, many videos on there that we hope and pray that you enjoy and will be inspired to live a better life with the Lord.